I think there's a good likelihood of it being a CR again. I think part of it's just been the problem over the last almost 30 years where we haven't passed appropriations on time. And so I think it's a bad habit that we've gotten into. We're hearing some comments back and forth from some of the Democrats that, you know, if the president's going to look at rescissions to cut out wasteful spending, that they're not going to agree to an appropriations process.
It's going to be another continuing resolution, which no one likes, military particularly, because those who are in the middle of leases and firms that are supplying not just the military. We got the Farm Bill, we've got DOD, Department of Defense. So I would assume it's going to be another CR, and I think it'll barely pass in the House, probably the Senate as well.
Lawmakers on this program yesterday predicting they'll need a continuing resolution to keep the government funded and avoid a shutdown next month. We've been hearing this now for weeks. The House will be back in session next Tuesday. And the GOP is warning Democrats may resist the GOP-led appropriations process. Joining me now is Florida Congressman Mike Haradopoulos. He's a member of the House Financial Services Committee. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for weighing in on this.
Good morning.
Are you expecting a shutdown at the end of September?
Well, let's hope not. I mean, as we proved throughout the year, we've been responsible. We're making sure that we're reducing spending, reducing taxes so we can grow this economy. And clearly, the Democrats believe in two things: higher taxes, and they don't want to cut a darn thing out of the government. They think that big spending is okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, what would be the argument to not keeping government funded? Because oftentimes we're talking with your colleagues and they insist that Schumer actually wants a shutdown.
I think he does. I think he wants to fight with the president. It seems like all they want to do is fight, whether it be on reapportionment or anything else, even stopping crime. They're now for crime. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my lifetime in politics. And so that said, we're going to be focused on making sure that we're responsible with the money. We're going to keep the government open, and we're going to try to work out a deal. But as you know, Maria, it'll take 60 votes in the United States Senate, and that means at least 7 Democrat votes. We do our part in the House. Let's hope the Senate is responsible, move a common sense budget forward, because we're poised for economic growth right now with the big, beautiful bill, with the tax cuts in place, helping people out hard hit the last 4 years. It's common sense to keep the government open and move this country forward and continue the success we've had over the last 8 months.
All right, let me move on and ask you about what we're seeing in Norway. You know, we've been talking a lot on this program about funds removing Chinese companies from giving investors the ability to buy and fund these Chinese stocks who are bad actors. And now we're looking at what's going on 2 weeks before the Norwegian elections. And what we see is the fund is getting rid of Israeli companies. Since June 30th, the Norway Fund, 23 Israeli companies have been removed from Norway's sovereign wealth fund. This is because of activists calling for the fund to sell these stocks. These investments have taken center stage in Norway's election, Congressman. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because some are really outraged by Norway following the lead of these activists and selling Israeli stocks over the Gaza war. And yet no mention whatsoever of the fact that Chinese companies are on our U.S. exchanges, and we're actually watching investors fund the CCP expansion despite the bad actions from the CCP. Your thoughts?
Well, you nailed it, Maria. As usual, this is just virtue signaling in Norway. I mean, these folks they're taking the side of the people who attacked civilians on October the 7th. Israel is simply defending itself against hostile actions. Israel's action, of course, had taken away the big threat of Iran in that part of the world, and now we have some stability for the first time. It's really disappointing to see a fellow NATO member actually do such a thing like this. The United States is doing everything it can to promote peace around the world. The president has already signed 6 major peace deals around the world, and he's working on one now, of course, between Ukraine and Russia, and he's working hard to try to bring more stability to Israel. And here, it'll be right before an election, Norway plays games.
Right.
The United States is a nation that stands by its allies, and unfortunately, Norway is a little bit in left field here.
So, is there anything you could do in terms of congressional action to, point out this obvious issue, whereas you're looking at Chinese companies allowed to stay on these huge funds, enabling investors to fund the expansion of the CCP, and yet we've got the largest sovereign wealth fund of all, Norway, selling Israeli companies?
Well, believe me, I think when the president starts hearing about this nonsense, he'll be a man in action. He's got an amazing Secretary of State, and Marco Rubio has been so strong on these type of issues. And this is where we need to really highlight the hypocrisy around the world.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Let me move on to the Transportation Department now, threatening to pull federal funding from California, Washington, and New Mexico because those states are not enforcing English language requirements for truck drivers. You know, this is really important when you think about the fact that these drivers are not speaking regular English, and how do they understand the signposts while they're driving? It comes after an illegal immigrant is now being accused of killing 3 people in Florida after making an illegal U-turn. He faces 3 charges of vehicular manslaughter. We're going to speak with the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, coming up. But New Mexico State Police has released this video of that illegal trucker. This was a month before the crash. He was getting a speeding ticket a month earlier, and he's conversing in really limited English, Congressman. This crash happened just outside of your district. Your reaction?
I'm just appalled by what's happening. Just shows once again that sanctuary states ruin not just their own state, but can impact the lives of so many others. Just south of my district, this happened. Horrible situation. And these are the basics think about what the government is for. Life, liberty, property. You protect those things. It's basic public safety. And here's the hypocrisy of California allowing this person to get a license without the ability to read a sign, which is so basic. And this is how far the left has gone in protecting all the wrong people. The president and Republicans are absolutely committed to not only public safety, but just common sense. Yeah. I mean, come on. And because of these actions, lives are destroyed. It's time for us to step up. I'm glad that Ron DeSantis is even checking trucks as now come into Florida to make sure that our roadways are safe.
Yeah, great point. All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work, certainly. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Mike Hardopoulos joining us. Thank you, sir.